Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Thursday edition, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Zodiac TV, on Max Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. Please like, follow, and share our Facebook pages. Subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Our website is nessp.info. Info on all our shows, guests, bios, stores, and links to those stores. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, together bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mac. I guess it's an extra good morning with what took place in New York sports, with the Yankees, Mets, especially the Islanders, that we'll talk about in detail as we go forward in the show.
Yeah, definitely. And Jack, we got a really big show with some good guests today. We've got Carter B coming up with our National Hockey League update and review, as we do every Thursday. And we also got Joe Smith Jr., the light heavyweight champion in one of the divisions or sanctioning bodies, I should say. So we'll have him live on talking about his last fight and what's coming up in the future. I mean, to me, Joe Smith, as I said in the past, reminds me of the Raging Bull who can take a shot and boy, can he dish him out, Jack. So he'll be on with us today also, Jack.
Well, Mac, word has gotten out that you're Joe Smith's biggest booster. No one has as much faith in the media, and Joe Smith is you. So the Joe Smith camp, from what I hear, they really like that. They feel you know your stuff, Mac. They feel you know your stuff, that you're a knowledgeable guy. That's what I hear coming out of the Joe Smith, camp.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Joe Smith to me is what a fighter is all about, right? He's got the will, he's got the determination, and he's got a hell of a punch. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting with the top four, Jack. You know, I mean, this is going to be a great thing with the light heavyweight division. I feel that it's going to be one of the most exciting divisions upcoming here in the next year or two, where the top four gladiators go at it with their different styles, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I can't wait to talk about it later during our boxing segment. There'll be a lot to talk about.
There sure will be. And Jack, before the show, you brought up something, and before we get to Carter, I want to talk about it a little bit. And you were talking about, Cole up for the Yankees, the starting pitcher who won last night, by the way. I mean, the Twins almost came back and beat him, but that's beside the point. Commenting during a press conference about the use of a sticky substance named, I think it's Spider Tack. And it's something that the players, really all sports use this, believe it or not, Jack. Weightlifters, and other sports use this to get a better grip on things. And, when you're throwing curveballs and sliders, and even when you're popping that four-seamer, and you got that little extra grip on the baseball, as we know from the past, it helps the pitcher a lot. So I don't know if it's right or wrong. And after I get your comment on this, I'm going to tell you where I think this is going, Jack. So what do you think about, pitchers scuffing the ball, using sticky stuff on their hands?
I mean, what else is new, Mac? Pitchers have always scuffed the ball, okay? Batters have tried to get every advantage. That's the sport. To what point can we police it? Actually, Garrett Cole had support from Buck Showalter yesterday, and Pete Alonso, of all people. Pete Alonso said he wants the pitchers to be able to use the stuff to get a good grip on the ball, because if they don't get a good grip on the ball, he doesn't want to get hit by a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. He wants them to be able to control where they place the ball for safety purposes. Buck Showalter responded to Josh Donaldson. He said, tell him he shouldn't be allowed to use pine tar to know it all, to get a grip on the bat. So if batters can get a grip on the bat, why can't pitchers get a grip on the ball? I don't know the answer, Mac. I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable enough. I think it's the type of thing where sensible heads have to prevail. Major League Baseball has to sit down with the people in authority who are really knowledgeable, who have no axe to grind, and decide what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed.
Well, let me give you a little insight, right? First of all, the control of the pitchers has gone down over the years because there's so much wanting, especially last 2 years, because these analytics and the spin on the ball, so many rotations, blah, blah, blah. So the control, the walks are at an unbelievable rate now. It's not like, they're not walking anybody anymore. In fact, the walks have gone up. And if you remember, Jack, during the steroid era, the coaches, the managers, the owners knew it was going on. And what they did at the time was even though I don't think it was illegal at the time they started using them, what they said to the managers and the coaches, that make sure you have a doctor ready in case there's side effects and the guy gets really sick. So this was basically what was going on behind the scenes. And the contract was coming up also, if you remember. So now a new contract is coming up again, Jack. And just by circumstance or by luck or by whatever, all of a sudden they're going to come down hard on the rules about the pitchers. So this is it's a rule that they're not supposed to do, but they've been doing it for years. Cole was honest. He didn't say he didn't use it. He said it was passed down. So he didn't lie. So I give him credit for that, as some of the steroid users did. So with the bargaining agreement coming up soon, do you think that Major League Baseball has something to do with this all of a sudden worried about what the pitchers are using on their hands?
I don't know. They're trying to improve the product of the game. And I'm going to tell you something. By making the pitchers better, that doesn't make the game as marketable as making the hitters better, okay? Hitters who have gaudy statistics, position players, they're more of an attraction for Major League Baseball than a pitcher, with a few exceptions. If Jacob deGrom, who's on a historic run, is going to a visiting city, people are going to want to see him pitch, as they will in Citi Field. But all in all, when a visiting team comes to town, you think of their position players, who they have on the team. You get tickets to a game, you think who they have on the team, and that has a lot to do with stats. Baseball's become about who can cheat the best. Like an example, a pitching coach goes out to the mound. Okay, yesterday, the Baltimore Oriole pitching coach goes out to talk to Matt Harvey. He's blocking his mouth. We can't hear what he's saying on TV. He can whisper. No one can hear what he's saying in the dugout. But the thing is, they have it's so sophisticated. They're scared the opposing team will have a way to read lips. They'll have a way to find out what he's saying. And speaking of Matt Harvey yesterday, that was kind of sad to see. I don't know. We're going to get to that with the.
Well, let's just stay with the sticky stuff first.
Right. So, well, the sticky stuff, Mac. I mean, it's going on and on. It's out of control now. Pitchers have been allowed to get away with things, but because certain pitchers like Garrett Cole, their ball is dipping a little more, hitters are getting frustrated. But I'm going to tell you something. When you can throw 100 miles per hour like Garrett Cole, you're not going to hit him too well under any circumstance.
Well, Jack, let's take a look at what you said. They want to help the batters. What have they been doing since the late 60s? They've been doing everything to help the batters. They've lowered the mound. They've brought in the fences. They've let them, the batting gloves, bats are built different. I mean, they've been doing everything.
Not this year. There's a dead ball this year. There's I shouldn't say a dead ball, but the ball reportedly isn't as lively. That's why home runs are down.
All right. I mean, all I'm saying, Jack, is the ball. No, I don't believe the ball is not the dead ball era. That's for sure. I mean, it's wrapped differently. It's tighter. It has more pop off the bat. So the home runs, even with all that, Jack, they're still not hitting 60 home runs. They're still not batting averages are dropping down all the way. So I don't blame the pitchers for that, since the batters have given every advantage now in offense, I blame the offense. I blame the batters. I don't think they're meant to hit anymore. And
Matt, the rules are tied on steroids now. Players aren't taking steroids the way they did in the past. And if they are, there's a good chance they'll get caught like Robinson Cano was and suspended for full seasons. So the players have to be extra careful. It's not just a question of losing money by getting suspended, but the reputational damage is irreparable. Like Robinson Cano was should be a potential Hall of Famer. Good chance he would get consideration for the Hall of Fame under normal conditions. But now, I mean, he practically has no chance of getting in the way things stand.
Well, listen, I mean, the steroid, Jack, I think, again, reputation's ruined. Maybe so. I mean, maybe so. And maybe these guys will never get in the Hall of Fame. It's a shame than people that use steroids. So you're telling me Whitey Ford, who scuffed the ball up, I know other pitchers has done it through the rest of history, and I know if they use pine tar and some kind of oil so they could spread it on their hands. So you're telling me that the pitchers of today that are using this sticky, spider, tacky stuff are going to have a problem getting a Hall of Fame when pitchers throughout their history that are in the Hall of Fame right now have been doing the same thing? That's what you're telling me?
If they're obviously breaking a rule, the Hall of Fame voters are going to have a dilemma because they're keeping out legendary players like Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod out of the Hall of Fame. And now are they going to allow elite pitchers to get into the Hall of Fame who have the same reputation of bending the rules? I mean, it's a dilemma that's going to have to be worked on. Pitchers have always scuffed baseballs. I mean, the big thing used to be years ago, Mac, grease. They used to put this Vitalis, all this grease in their hair, and the ball would be greased. The ball would be greased. And what was the main term? The spitball, would have the ball rotate. So this is really nothing new to me. All it is a more sophisticated method. But where do we stop? Listen, teams have always tried to steal signs, Matt. But when the Astros went to another level, people were outraged. Are they going to feel that way about the pitchers?
Why, Jack, do they allow pine tar on bats? They can get a good grip.
To get a good grip, just the way golfers are allowed to wear gloves.
So what's wrong with the pitchers getting a good grip? What's wrong with that? Why would they let batters
pine tar does not move
on the bat? They get a better grip on the bat, Jack, and they use batting gloves too.
Pine tar, Mac, doesn't change the trajectory of the bat. It doesn't improve the bat speed, and all it means is the player can hold on to the bat. The ball, it's less likely the bat to leave his hands. But what the pitchers are doing changes the movement.
You can make better contact with the ball, Jack. The more of a grip you got on the bat, the better contact you can get on the baseball. And the better control you have over the bat. If you're a real hitter, you can go to different fields with it. So it's okay for the batters to have a grip advantage. So
what I want to see, Mac? I want to see around the league. This is how I judge.
Go ahead.
Let me see the whole league, the performances of position players, the elite position players. Every team has a couple of elite guys on their team. Let's see how they've done in the past, the established players, to how they're doing now. If a Mike Trout, who's been injured, comes back and all of a sudden Mike Trout is no longer a superstar type player. He's, let's say, a 30 home run, 300, batting average, 100 RBIs a year. Excellent numbers, don't get me wrong. Excellent for just about anyone, but not quite Mike Trout numbers when he's at his best. If Mike Trout has lost 15 to 20% efficiency, and other players as well. If I want to hear from Francisco Lindor, who hadn't been hitting a while, what's going on with the ball here? We should really take notice. I mean, is there any big changes going on with the position players?
Yeah, they can't hit.
Josh Donaldson, to me, the Twins signed him to a 4-year deal, $18 million a year. But I feel, he had a big year with Atlanta as a free agent the year before last. But he might be a player, I'm not saying for sure, who might be slightly declining, a little long in the tooth. And listen, Garrett Cole's a great pitcher. He doesn't have to use anything at all to be a great pitcher. Well, when someone could throw 100 miles per hour and has good control, I mean, come on. And he has nasty pitches.
Well, if a guy can if the guy can hit a ball and not use pine tar, we're allowing that. I think, Jack, it should go both ways. If you're going to get rid of sticky stuff on your hands to pitch, then you get rid of the pine tar. Simple. Good exchange, I think. So
I can't say I'm against that. I mean, no. I don't listen. I played ball. I didn't play on the major league level. I know how it is to swing a bat, with competitive kids, up to age 17. But you get to the major league level, it's a whole different thing. None of us should pretend to know as far as getting an edge what it takes.
In fact,
and if it's indeed a good trade, it can be done, but
in fact,
that might be the next thing. They're going to have to resolve why the ball is dipping, little lower.
In fact, Jack, from what I was reading and listening to, the minor leagues are having a problem right now. There is such a disparity between AAA and the Major League Baseball that they're having problems bringing up quality hitters and pitchers like never before. So I don't know what's going on down there. So Carter is having problems. He texted me getting the connection today. So he's having a problem coming in. So let's do our little hockey thing here. And first thing
we're doing hockey without Carter?
Well, he
can't come in. Is he coming in at all, Matt?
Well, he's trying to.
Oh, okay. I mean, man. Hold up. Carter's the man.
Whenever I say the word, Jack, there he is. So Carter B, our NHL expert, and has got to be one of the happiest experts in the land after last night. So let's bring him up, and we're going to bring him up as we always do, just right, Jack. So let's see what we got here.
Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice.
I'm going to play a little bit.
We got to ask Carter about stick 'em with the gully on the goalie.
Jack, can you just play for 1 second? Let me enjoy this song. Thank you. Hey, Carter, what's up, my friend?
Hey, guys, how you doing? Sorry about that. I had a bit of a connection problem on my end, but I'm happy I'm here now.
Congratulations, Carter.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and you don't get to see your team make the final.
I didn't. We lost. Mac, go ahead.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, Carter. What was your last part of that statement?
Just that I hope they go all the way. I mean, this very well could be their year, and Tampa's a tough team. I'm not discrediting them at all, but definitely shot.
So let's get it. We got some highlights too, Carter. I'm going to show. We got to do that. So the Islanders are now the East Division champs. They win 6-2. That's 11 goals in 2 games, Carter. That's unbelievable for the Islanders, right? They turned on a little offense in the last 2 games. So you had Brock Nelson with 2. You had, I love this name, Clutterbuck. Where has he been? I would have fun with that name all the time. It rhymes with puck. It says clutter. I mean, I would have a blast with that name. Clutterbuck gets the score. Palmieri, Pulak, Zajac, Varlamov saves 23 out of 25 goals. Like I said, 11 goals in 2 games, Carter. That's got to make you feel good going up against Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them at the end of Game 6 were empty netters, but I mean, you're not going to complain. I mean, there's still goals nonetheless, but yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit where credit's due. I mean, the Islanders put in a lot of shots against Tuukka Rask. I mean, granted they maybe weren't the highest quality of shots, but they still managed to beat him a couple times. And I mean, in the playoffs they don't ask how, they just ask how many. So they managed to get the job done, and now they're in the semis because of it.
And you know who their MVP could be? A guy who doesn't even play for them, Lou Lamoriello, with the moves that he makes. Like having a GM like him, the Islanders are always going to be relevant. Okay, they're playing Tampa Bay again, and we tend to do this in sports. If they played in a series the year before, we use it as a yardstick and say, what have the Islanders done to improve enough to overtake Tampa Bay? And if anything, Tampa Bay is going to be a little more formidable than they were last year, even if it's just a confidence factor, because they're Stanley Cup champions. They have a swagger. I mean, they feel that there's no way they're losing to the Islanders, and the Islanders might be a little bit in awe playing the Stanley Cup champs. And I'm waiting to see if I hear one Islander say the pressure's on them, we have nothing to lose. That means the Islanders are beaten. That's the worst attitude you could have. I like the Islanders to have an attitude, the heck with these guys. We're going to take it to them, and we're going to kick their rear ends. The Islanders have that swagger.
Well, before you answer that, Carter, I'm going to let you answer that. But I want to go over the game first. And this was typical Islander hockey, very physical team. I think they'll bring that to Tampa. But remember Jack's question, because right after we do these highlights, as we go, and this is courtesy of Sportsnet, guys. When we share this, I'm going to get it up on the big screen, and we will take a look at what the Islanders did last night against the Boston Bruins.
You guys want me to answer the question while the video's playing, or would you rather?
Sure. Or if you want to comment on the highlights, you can do that too, Carter.
Playoffs and in the regular season, so it'll be interesting to see how they match up here as this one gets going. And it's Pajot that won the drop from Bergeron to kick it off as Pellik's shot is blocked and it goes back to the Boston net. It's loose. Cizikas got it from Martin. Tip back to the line. Andy Green with it. Throws it towards the net. Skips wide. Oh, and a great chance.
All right, stop. Let's keep it going.
For Matt Martin, but Rask got across in time. Tries to search it out. You'll see this thing move quite a bit as it hits Clutterbuck. And Martin tries to stab it on the backhand, and Rask comes across. Handed off. Now it's cut off. It's centered by Palmieri. He'll bring it in. Trying to shot. It's off the foot of McAvoy.
A very physical game, Carter.
McAvoy knocks him down.
Absolutely, and that's how the Islanders like to play. I mean, they're a fast team. They're physical. They can play up to any team in the league when it comes to physicality. So, this is the way they want to play, and that's the type of goals that they want to score. Travis Zajac crashing the front of the net after a point shot comes in. You're getting traffic on Tuukka Rask. You're putting in rebounds on him from the slot. That's how the Islanders scored a lot this series, and that's how Travis Zajac got the scoring open here.
Not just the series, but in the playoffs last.
Now, why did they allow him to be in front of the net like that? Why aren't they on him?
The point comes to the net.
Why aren't they on him? I have no idea. That's just poor defensive coverage by the Bruins. But you're allowed to be there as long as you're not standing in the goaltender's
back
crease.
was turned by the Boston defenseman on the rebound.
Big play at the line by Grisslick to keep it in. Krejci with it. Hands it off. Pasternak to Marchand. Scores.
So Bruins get Marchand. Marchand had 2 goals.
Great passing play.
Great player.
Marchand finishes it off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see how good of a player he is, and you see how good the Bruins power play is right there. It's just beautiful passing and nice cross net pass there. And Marchand's not going to make any mistake when he's got an empty net. He definitely didn't make one there.
The lower ones and the Boston Bruins are on the board with a power play goal.
I mean, both ready. Kind of a slap to him, a lift by him. Look at that hit. Jesus, they were doing that all night.
Palmieri spin shoots off the crossbar. Kyle Palmieri with a great chance for a buzzer beater.
So this is where the Islanders really start taking it to him.
He'll hand it off. Marchand gains the line. Feeds it for Bergeron. Kicked out by Varlamov. They almost lit the lamp here. What makes this line so dangerous, and especially Bergeron and Marchand, is they know each other so well. Nick Leddy back to retrieve it for New York. Played up in center, little tip pass.
Nice move right there.
Brock Nelson going to the net. Goal!
Beautiful move.
Nelson.
Absolutely, and again, I mean, that's just the Islanders forcing turnovers in the neutral zone. You see Nelson poke that puck off the Bruin defender at the blue line, and after that, I mean, Nelson's a sneaky fast player. He's fast, he's quick, he's deceptive, and
He
he
did
was
that
able
on
to beat
his own,
Tuukka Rask
Nelson.
on the
This
break.
was sensational. This was
Yeah, it was a hell of a
absolutely
pocket.
sensational.
Across his strong suit. He's a left-hand shot, and he's tall and a long reach. So I think that's just bad puck management for Grizzly.
I think as the game went along, Carter, the officials called it more even keel. I think early in the game, all this talk coming from the Bruins that the calls favored the Islanders persuaded them because the Bruins had a two-man advantage early, and one of the penalties was really tacky. I didn't even think should have been called. So even though they got a small fine, the Bruin coach, it played into the officials' head to be a little extra strict with the Islanders, I think, in that first period. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with that. I think, I think after the comments that Bruce Cassidy made, after Game 5, I think they wanted to make sure that they called the game the way it was supposed to be called. And that's kind of how it happened in Game 6. I mean, I don't.
That was a beautiful save on Romali. Open shot. There was double. See, off the rebound off the goalie. I mean, just the Islanders were so aggressive in the second and third periods. It was incredible.
Well, I'm going to tell you, there was one segment that impressed the heck out of me with the Islanders. Late in the game, with minutes left, they had a 2-goal lead. Boston desperately needed to get the puck, down in the Islander end where they could pull the goalie, tried to cut it to 1 goal. But the Islanders kept it at the Boston end. The puck would be moved back, forth. And the Islanders killed so much valuable time, in that segment.
He'll get it back to the point. Pellick is on it with a shot. Rasa stop. Rebound.
Where's the rebound?
Scores. Kyle Palmieri tips it home.
Carter, Palmieri came over from the Devils, right?
Yes, yeah, he
And
came
how
over.
come he was ineffective when he was with the Devils, and now with the Islanders, it's like a rebirth? I mean, what's going on? Is it the environment, the Stanley Cup playoffs, or what? Because he's been outstanding in the playoffs.
I don't think it was more that he was kind of absent when he was with the Devils, Jack. I think it was more, he was dealing with an injury over the course of the first couple of games of the season. It's
Getting in all the lanes. Their sticks are all
a big hit by Adam Pellick there, but I mean, Paul, he's a good player, and I think he was having a bit of a down year in New Jersey, and now, I mean, playing for a legit Stanley Cup contender on Long Island, it's it's definitely got to do wonders for his confidence. And he's got 7 goals in the postseason so far after having only 2 in the regular season. So if you're Kyle Palmieri, you're definitely happy that that this is the way it all turned out for you.
Marchand scores.
So Marchand comes back with his second goal. Hard to keep him down, Carter.
You see his eyes after he scored? You see where he looked? Right to the clock.
It's not easy, and the Islanders ultimately weren't able to do it in this game, but they they still, even without the 2 empty netters, they would have won 4-2. So I guess you lose some to win some in situations like this.
Marchand trying to come up with it. Pellick's got it. Up the boards. Zizekas want to get out. Peugeot for Clutterbuck. The empty net. Scores.
As you said, they had the 2.
To the Lightning. They're going to get another crack at them and another empty net.
There we go. So there you go. Those were the 2, the 2 big. Let me stop sharing this here for a minute.
Varlamov. He kicks it to the corner.
So basically, Carter, that was the game in a nutshell. And again, what I saw was just an aggressive Islander offense and keeping pressure, hitting them, forechecking. I mean, they did a great job. And again, that was courtesy of Sportsnet, folks. They just did a real great job overall as a team, defensively, offensively, against a real good Boston Bruins team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were picking the Bruins before this series even started to win because, you look at the offensive firepower that the Bruins have They have four lines that can put the puck in as evenly as anybody in the National Hockey League and anybody in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. So, you got to give the Islanders a lot of credit. I mean, they not only managed to limit the perfection line to only a few points in this series, but they also managed to shut down a lot of the Bruins' depth pieces, including Taylor Hall, who they got at the trade deadline as well. So, again, I mean, I don't think this Islanders team gets a lot of credit for what they do, but this definitely has to turn some heads.
Yeah, Carter, did the Islanders catch a little bit of a break going into the playoff? I mean, not going in after the first round, with Boston having beaten the Washington Capitals. Because my feeling was the Capitals would have been a very tough team to beat for the Islanders, tougher than the Penguins and the Bruins. So they maybe catch a little bit of a break. It doesn't diminish their accomplishment at all.
I think it's hard to say, Jack. I mean, I think the Islanders look good right now. I mean, there's no guarantee that they would have won or lost to the Washington Capitals. I guess we'll never really know. But I mean, if you're going off the regular season anyway, the Caps they beat up on the Islanders. I mean, the Penguins also beat the Islanders 6 out of 8 times during the regular season as well, and the Islanders beat them. So, I guess you never really know, but it's always it's always nice to speculate, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a lot about matchups. I think when it comes to games, some teams are just match up better against others. No, Jack asked you a real good question before the highlights. They're going against the ex Stanley Cup winners. I don't think they'll be in awe of them. I think the Islanders are a gritty team. But, as Jack says, we're not going to say, I hope they don't come out and say the pressure's on Tampa Bay. The pressure's equally on both teams to win any game. So if they do say that, I won't listen to it either. I'm with Jack. I don't want to hear that either.
Listen, as a fan, guys, if Tampa Bay loses to the Islanders, the year has not been a success. But we know if the Islanders lose to Tampa Bay, and especially if they're competitive, as an Islander fan, you could say, look, it was a good year. We won a couple of series. They gave us a lot of excitement. I understand that. We can have that attitude as fans, but I don't think players should ever have that attitude.
You know what? I normally don't disagree with many of the takes that you guys have on the show, but I'm going to disagree with that one. I think after seeing the Islanders lose in the Eastern Conference Final last year, the fans are as passionate and as confident as ever that they can beat this Tampa Bay Lightning team, and they should be. I mean, this is kind of answering your question that you asked a few minutes ago, but I'm not going to say that the Islanders are better on paper because, quite frankly, I don't think they are. I do think this team is more confident, and I do think that this team is more consistent in the way that they play. Tampa Bay, they have a very, very good team. I'm not gonna bring them down at all. There's really no weaknesses in their roster, but at the end of the day, they are beatable. And I think the Islanders have, they have a lot of heart. They have a lot of, they have a lot of will. And, this is kind of going to be like a no-brainer type of moment, but I think they saw what happened in last year's Eastern Conference Final. They saw how close they were to really taking down this Tampa Bay Lightning team, and that goes a long way in sports. It doesn't matter what sport it is. One thing that I do want to mention though this time around, and Tampa's obviously going to have their building as well, but the Islanders have Nassau Coliseum this time around, and the home ice that brings as well. Last year you had the bubble, which really you had to create your own momentum. Now you can create momentum off the crowd. You can feed off the energy in that stadium. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to predict which way the series is going to go because, to be honest, I'm really not sure. But it's definitely going to be entertaining to watch. That's for
sure. So Carter, I think it's going to be all about pressure. I think the Islanders are going to have to keep the pressure on Tampa Bay every game of every series. But before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit about Montreal, right? Montreal comes in, they beat up the Maple Leafs, they sweep the Jets. Give me a case, make a case that Montreal can win the Stanley Cup.
You know what? It's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie. The Canadiens have a very, very tough road ahead of them because they have to take down one of Vegas or Colorado, who is a very, very good team in their own right. And even if they win that series, they have to take on one of the Tampa Bay Lightning or the New York Islanders, both of whom are very, very good as well. So, with that said, though, I also think the Canadiens took down, two really, really good teams in Toronto and Winnipeg. And, you really got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, this Canadiens team defied pretty much everybody's expectations except their own fan bases. And, it's kind of unbelievable to say the least. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected this team to make a run like this, and now they're in the Final Four. So, for a storyline perspective, I'd love to see them go all the way. But, unless they're playing the Islanders in the final, in that case, I might have to root against them a little bit.
Now,
But
Carter, I don't like to compare a hockey team to a soccer team. Totally different sports, the way it's played. But a soccer team, if they go up one goal, especially 2 goals, they just clear the ball out. They protect the lead. They don't bother to attack. This Canadian team, they seem to get a 1 or 2 goal lead, and they have these tough defensemen who just keep clearing the puck out. They don't seem to allow many rebounds. I mean, they're great net protectors. And Winnipeg, how many goals did they score in the whole period? I mean, wow. I mean, it seemed like, 5, 6 goals the whole series? I mean, 4 games, and they hardly scored.
yeah, it was definitely wild to watch, that's for sure. And one thing that I do want to note, and I'm not discrediting Montreal for anything that happened, but one thing that I do want to note is I do think the Canadiens took advantage of the fact that that Winnipeg had quite a bit of time off after sweeping Edmonton. Montreal was coming off of a series. They're fresh off that series win, off of that series high, I should say, of coming back from down 3-1 against the Leafs. And, you have a lot of confidence in your group when something like that happens. And sure enough, they bring that confidence into this series, and they wind up beating the Winnipeg Jets. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think they get past Vegas or Colorado, whoever comes out of that series, but it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, nobody thought they'd get past Toronto or the Jets either. I love underdog stories,
I guess you never know. You never truly know in hockey.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. The NHL office probably thinks the way the NBA office is. They want a marquee matchup. And having Montreal in the finals against the Islanders, what a great marquee matchup that would be, going across the country, even Tampa Bay. But something about the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, their name is magic.
Might not be the best for my mental health, but sure, we'll go with the marketing strategy.
Carter, I want to thank you for coming in and hustling and trying really hard to get. I know you were having problems. You got to be a happy guy today. We'll see how happy you are after Game 3 of Tampa and the Islanders. Hopefully, you're still smiling, my friend, because I'm rooting for the locals, man. I got to root for the Islanders. So hopefully they do real good against Tampa. Keep the pressure on them, and hopefully they can come out of there with a win. It would be exciting. So, again, thanks for coming on, Carter. We'll see you again next week. Everybody tune into the 2-on-0 Hockey Show, where Carter and his Ranger co-host, I guess he is, right? Am I right? That's his Ranger team.
Yeah, you are right.
Yes. But, hey, the Rangers had a decent year, too. So they cover they cover all the hockey folks. They do a great job. They know a lot about hockey. They know a lot about the locals. So tune into their show, Northeast Streaming Sports, all over the place and we share them all over the place, Twitter, Instagram, and stuff like that. So Carter, thank you for coming in, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, guys. It was fun.
Take care. So there you go, Jack. Carter, who, I'll tell you right now, if that was like the Jets or the Giants in football or whatever, the Yankees, we would be glowing, man. You know what I mean? We're in the playoffs,
It's ice hockey, and we're around the corner from the summer, and they're playing ice hockey. It's great, especially when you have a local team in it. It creates such a buzz, such excitement.
Yes. So this morning, Iceman couldn't make it in, so I got one of the premier experts in boxing as my co-host, so that's great. And we're going to start taking up a little bit of boxing news here. So let's start with the fights, Jack. June 12th against Stevenson is boxing against Naka. Am I saying that right?
You pronounce his name. It's a showcase fight for Stevenson. It's on ESPN. He's going to get a little more exposure than normally because Bob Arum's top rank. They just signed a deal with Sky Sports in England that has a wide, viewing audience.
Right.
Sky Sports was with Eddie Hearn for a lot of years, and Eddie Hearn is now committed 100% to the Zone. Okay, that streaming outlet that puts on a lot of good fights. So Sky Sports counted by going to Bob Arum, who has a large stable of world-class fighters. The thing about Shakur Stevenson, and he was an Olympic gold medalist,
Right.
in the last Olympic silver medalist in the last Olympics. He came up a little short of the gold medal, but he's a spoiler, Shakur Stevenson. He's a great fighter, fast, such an effective boxer, and he's the type of fighter no one wants to fight because he's so darn good. So going forward, it won't be easy for Shakur Stevenson to get the big fights. He's just going to have to keep busy how he can and hope something opens up for him somewhere down the line.
Yeah, that was a controversial decision too when he lost to that Cuban in the Olympics, if I remember correctly. I mean, listen, I'm all for the young blood, especially Olympic boxers coming out and boxing.
Well, the Olympics has a punch system, Mac. It's not like you or I judging the fight. There's like a punch total, how many punches land, and they total the numbers up. And listen, when Oscar De La Hoya won an Olympic gold medal in 1992, he landed 10 punches to his opponent's 9 on the punch stat sheet, over the 3 rounds. And he just came 1 punch away from maybe losing the fight. But amateur scoring could be extremely bizarre.
Well, what I was going to say is that, as watching, like the Sugar Ray Leonards, watching them come up, I wish we have more of that. I'm glad to see, that this guy's starting to raise a little hell and maybe, as you say, keep busy and building his audience, his followers.
You make a good point, Mac. You make a great point, but there's a difference between 1976 when Sugar Ray Leonard came up. There was less competition. In this day and age, someone sitting down in front of their TV set is going to have like 150 channels, to choose from, a ton of movies, a ton of sports shows to watch, news shows. In that time, what do we have? CBS, NBC, Channel 5, ABC. You didn't have many channels. And the Olympics was the thing. Everyone would be watching the Olympics, okay? And now with this Olympics coming up, we haven't been building up the fighters. We don't even know who's on the team. But Sugar Ray Leonard, they built him up. ABC exhibited a lot of some of his amateur bouts leading into the Olympics. So the big thing is, could Sugar Ray win the gold medal? We were tuning in, in anticipation. We don't have the anticipation now.
It's a great point, Jack. And as I was about to say before, we do have the light heavyweight champion, Joe Smith, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. So, guys, stay tuned for that. So we have Lopez against Kambosos, mandatory fight for Lopez, who says he's not overlooking the contender, but kind of looking through him. I guess he said that contracts were offered, nobody signed. So he's going to fight Kambosos.
George Kambosos is an Australian fighter. He beat Lee Selby, who's a pretty good, solid fighter. And Lopez is a 6 1/2 to 1 favorite, which I think is a little too wide. I mean, I'm going to pick Lopez to win the fight. But based on Lopez beating Lomachenko, now he's one of the main stars in boxing. But is he really a great fighter? Is he really that good? Was he just too big and strong for Lomachenko? Was it a peak performance? Because he was extremely focused. When you focus on one guy for a couple of years, you keep focusing on him, by the time you fight him, you're going to fight him better than you would somebody else. The fight's in Miami. Actually, it should have taken place by now. They had it scheduled for June 5th, but Floyd Mayweather was fighting in Miami also that weekend. So they moved the show in Miami a couple of weeks later on.
So you got Jimmy, Jack, you got Mangua, am I saying it right? Versus
Jamie Mangia. Yeah, he
coming up against Slecki, for it's the WBO Intercontinental Middleweight Championship, right?
I couldn't give a darn Intercontinental. This that Jamie Mangia I mean, when he knocked out Saddam Ali, we thought he's the next big star in boxing. But then after that, he went flat. He didn't lose any fights. He would win close decisions. He wouldn't perform like a superstar. He didn't excite anyone. But at the time he knocked out Saddam Ali, Jamie Munguia looked so sensational. HBO was on its last legs as far as broadcasting boxing. And the thought was maybe they'll stick with Jamie Munguia and he'll save HBO boxing. He'll be the next Canelo Alvarez. That was the talk. But he's kind of disappointed. He's a pretty good fighter, but not the star that people thought, he was going to be.
So we have a Japanese star coming out. And again, help me with the pronunciation of this, Jack. I think it's Indua versus
Nui.
Nui versus Dasmarsnos. I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, Mac.
Yeah. So anyway, you got the Japanese fighter right now at 20-0. Supposedly had 3 different titles in 3 different classes. Going against Dasmarsnos, 30-2-1. He's 12-0 since his last knockout.
Well, I really looked like a little Mike Tyson for a while ago. Like a little Mike Tyson, 115-pounder, and pure dynamite, devastating puncher. But then he went up against Nonito Donaire, and he beat Nonito Donaire by decision. It was a great fight. It was voted Fight of the Year. That's how good a fight it was. But it kind of showed Nui can be taken, okay? You get the right opponent. He's a heck of a fighter, and I'm not saying he's going to lose anytime soon. But that fight kind of put his invincibility a little bit in question. Carlos puts down my thoughts on the Pacquiao fight against Errol Spence. That's in late August. I'm going to tell you something. Logically speaking, Errol Spence should beat Manny Pacquiao. Now, does Pacquiao have a lot left? A year and a half ago, he beat Keith Thurman, who was unbeaten. If you think Keith Thurman is as good as Errol Spence, then you have to like Pacquiao's chances. I don't think he's quite as good as Errol Spence. And Errol Spence, he had that horrific car accident. He was thrown from the car, but he had this comeback fight. He looked reasonably good against Danny Garcia, very tough opponents. You have to figure he's going to be better for Pacquiao. He's going to be in peak form. And Pacquiao, it's a question of picking his poison. He could have fought Terrence Crawford. But obviously he sees something in Errol Spence where he feels Spence is more beatable than Crawford. Of course, Pacquiao would have wanted to fight Mayweather more than anyone because that's where the money would have been. But listen, you got to go with Errol Spence in that fight. But I'll tell you, if Pacquiao at age 42 should upset an unbeaten Errol Spence, and you want to compare his career to Mayweather's, you might have to just put him ahead of Floyd, despite some losses on Pacquiao's record, because he would have achieved things at an age against such outstanding fighters that's rarely been done in the history of the sport.
Well, Jack, I think that there is something to be said about fighting a former great. I'm not saying Pacquiao's not great anymore, but he's definitely not in his prime. And I think that, if he loses, if he goes to fight Pacquiao and loses, this could be very detrimental to his career. If he wins, you beat a guy out of his prime. I see a no-win situation either way, Jack.
Listen, the paydays are great for Pacquiao. I think he's kind of businessman in a sense, fighting for the money. It doesn't mean he's not motivated still to chase greatness. But, Mac, talk about a man juggling a schedule. He's a senator in the Philippines. A lot of people feel Manny Pacquiao is someday going to be president of the Philippines. So he waits during a lull when he doesn't have to do his Senate duties, where he can train all out. We're assuming, and it's not wrong to assume necessarily, that Manny Pacquiao is clearly past his peak. But if I say this to you, show me the evidence that he's past his peak, you won't have an easy time doing it. Didn't he look good knocking Keith Thurman down in the first round and then beating an outstanding, welterweight in Keith Thurman, who was unbeaten, one of the elite fighters. And Keith Thurman was in the, flirting with the top 10 on pound-for-pound lists when Pacquiao beat him. That was a massive victory there. And who's to say if Pacquiao has the same form a year and a half later, from about a year and a half they fought that long ago, close to 2 years ago. If he has that same form against Errol Spence, who's to say for sure, he's going to lose that fight.
So before we get to our commercial break, Jack, I want to talk a little bit about, of course, the Mayweather, fight against the YouTube sensation, grossing over 1 million plus in pay-per-view. I found a way to put my anxiety at rest, Jack. When all of these fights come up now, I'm just going to call it boxing entertainment, like the WWE. I'm not going to get all upset anymore. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm going to say, okay, this is not a boxing fight. It's boxing entertainment. It's choreographed to a moment. They're not going to hurt each other. They're going to go in there. They're going to fool around. There's no really knockout. There's no prize that, they're going to get a title. I mean, they may even make up a make-believe belt. Maybe we'll call it the boxing entertainment world champion. I mean, this is going to get me out of my anxiety that I have over these fights that I really dislike. So I'm going to accept it like that from now on, Jack.
Let me tell you, Mac, even great fighters of the past outside of Mayweather, like Julio Cesar Chavez, he's having one of those exhibitions this month against Hector Camacho Jr., okay? Right. And he had one before Julio Cesar Chavez against a fellow Mexican, Jorge Arce, who was a former champion as well. And I think you're going to see more and more of this. I mean, they get in there, they hold back a little bit. The commissions don't legally sanction it. They say, but they allow it to go on. And I'm going to tell you something, Mac. If a guy can make a ton of money, a lot of money, I mean, who's against it? Listen, on the Mayweather show, Chad Ochocinco fought. I think he had a real fight, a 4-rounder. It was a draw or something. I don't know. It was a real fight. But the point is, guys engaging in it. And if they can make money, and your attitude is good, Mac. I like your attitude. You're looking at it as entertainment. If you look at it that way, great. But 1 million people buying it, you're not gonna get that many people getting the Pacquiao Spence fight, which is, a true fight. Maybe, Jack. That's a big name. Well, it's Manny Pacquiao. You never know how they promote it, but I would think it would come a little short. But who knows? Maybe Pacquiao rides the coattails. Also, when you have these shows late summer, I think it's something like the third week in August, people are less likely to get pay-per-view events to show up to certain things. Something about late summer, attendance in general, viewership is a little bit down.
I definitely agree with that. Folks, we're going to take our official timeout, a quick timeout. Scheduled after the timeout in the 9 o'clock hour, folks, we have on light heavyweight champion Joe Smith Jr. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Can't wait to interview him again, Jack. I can't wait to hear how the honeymoon went and all that good stuff. I can't wait to interview him. So stick with us, folks. We'll be right back on the other side of this break.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol.
If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble. Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch. And Jack just covered on a couple things we did have on Carter B a little while ago, giving us a hockey update. Our local team, the Islanders, are in the semis against Tampa. I expect them to do well. I don't know if they're going to win the series or not, but it will be a very physical, hard-fought series, that's for sure.
Yeah, Mac, don't have the attitude you expect them to do well. They've got to win this, but Tampa Bay is a clear favorite because the Islanders did take them to 6 games last year, and they had a chance to win that series. But Tampa wasn't the defending Stanley Cup champions, so it was actually maybe it would even be a bigger disappointment than if they lost this year. But their mindset has to be, we can absolutely beat these guys. But Tampa Bay is going to be a heavy favorite all over the NHL. You know, the way we know it works because they have that Stanley Cup championship, aura about them, and that there's a certain swagger there when you're the champions.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I'm not counting out whoever wins the night series, or I'm not counting out the Montreal Canadiens either. Anything could happen in the playoffs, Jack.
Jack, you were high on the Canadiens in the beginning. I think you were thinking they could win the cup. You were high on them in hockey and the Red Sox in baseball, and the Red Sox are holding up. You're going to look like a genius if the Canadiens win the cup and the Red Sox the World Series, man. I won't question you again if those two things happen. I mean, if anything, I'll listen to you and then I'll place some bets.
Yeah. Those are both long shots, Jack. So I'm just rooting for – I love underdogs, Jack. I love watching underdogs do well. Even if they don't make it, it shows that, anything still can happen in sports instead of just the regular favorites winning all the time. So, since we're not let me see where I got that thing. I had the ain't going to happen list with me, and I can't seem to find it yet, but I want to get to it. I know what I'm going to ask you anyway. So Let's go. It ain't gonna happen, Jack, until we get the light heavyweight champion on here. Hopefully he makes it in. So ain't gonna
He's
happen.
making you wait, Mac. The way he
Yes,
makes
he
his
is.
opponent straight in the ring before
Yes.
entering the ring,
You're
he's
right.
conditioned to make you wait.
Yes. So anyway, Jack. So let's start it. The Islanders will win the Stanley Cup, Jack.
Ain't gonna happen. I mean, they've got to win this series, then win another one. I mean, you ask me that if they get by Tampa Bay, if they get to the finals, but you have to say ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
Derek Cole will continue using that spider tacky stuff on his hands.
Ain't gonna happen because he's under a lot of scrutiny now, as are all the pitchers. Listen, I can't name the name of this catcher, but there was one catcher, a great catcher, who was under suspicion of using steroids and all, and he put up some great power numbers. And then when he was under suspicion, I mean, he stopped using it because he didn't want to be, he didn't want to be caught in any way, shape, or form. And then his physique went down, which kind of made you know that he used it. So Garrett Cole, he's good enough to win, to be elite without all those little additions, if indeed he's using it, and it would seem, that he is, and a number of other pitchers are too. So he'll stop. Major League Baseball will get involved, and let's see what goes on from here.
Definitely. Arthur Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr. will fight within this year, Jack.
Gonna happen. That's something we should speak with Joe Smith when he comes on, because who else are they going to fight? What's going to be lucrative? Listen, if Beterbiev can get a fight with Dmitry Bivol, he'll bypass Joe Smith, because Bivol is also a belt holder, and Bivol did defeat Joe Smith before. So that would give Beterbiev by far the strongest claim to the light heavyweight championship, in that type of case. So, but I'd have to say, look, Beterbiev and Joe Smith are both promoted by Bob Arum's Top Rank. It's a fight that absolutely can be made. They might be waiting for Madison Square Garden to open up and allow fans to attend, because as Joe Smith's promoter, Joe DeGuardia, said, what a great fight that is for Madison Square Garden. Beterbiev will bring a large Russian population. Joe Smith will bring a lot of his people, the New Yorkers. And with this Cold War going on with the United States and Russia, is that going to carry over into boxing and make fights more marketable? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might. So, I'm hoping it does. I think it's going to happen too, Jack. And the last one, Aaron Rodgers will be playing with the Green Bay Packers when the season begins.
I'm going to say ain't going to happen now. Listen, one thing people forgot about Aaron Rodgers, I mean, how stubborn he can truly be if he feels something is a certain way. And I'm not judging whether he's right or wrong, but Aaron Rodgers, before this all happened, he wasn't talking to his family. He wasn't talking to his parents, his brother for a while. So when Aaron Rodgers gets hold of something, and I'm not saying whether he's right or wrong, I don't know the story, I'm not passing judgment. When he bunkers down, he really bunkers down. And my feeling is with the Packers by now, if it was going to get resolved, he would have resolved it, if they were offering him a contract extension, guaranteed money, and that's not good enough for him, then nothing's going to be good enough for him. So it ain't going to happen. He won't return.
So you think that he's going to take the fines, retire, and give the money back is what you're saying?
I think the Packers will trade him. I think it's more important to that organization to get assets back. They could just let him retire, but they get nothing in return. So they spike themselves as well just to teach Aaron Rodgers a lesson. And yes, Aaron Rodgers is the type, he could not play the year and then not come back the following year. And listen, they're going to need assets. I'm more curious with the Houston Texans, what goes on with Deshaun Watson, because his situation's really murky now, and he doesn't want to play for the Texans, and the Texans can't get the same value in return for at least the present time. So that to me, is a little more of a compelling story because we know the Packers can get a lot in return for Aaron Rodgers now. They could get a significant amount back.
I mean, there was a lot of rumblings about Watson wanting to go to Denver. I don't know if Denver would want that. That's going to be the problem for Watson.
Why does everyone want to go to Denver, Mac? They have Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Is Denver so desperate between Bridgewater and Lock? If the rest of the offense is good, they should be able to make do.
Right?
I just don't get it.
I don't either, Jack. I'm not sure why everybody wants to go to Denver. I know they got a good defense, and I don't know about their weapons, but I know they got a good defense.
Oh, Von Miller should be back. Let's see how he is after that knee injury, having a year off. Yeah, because we know what a force he could be.
Right. So anyway, I just contacted the camp of Joe Smith, and I haven't got an answer yet. So hopefully they're just working out, and he'll be on in a minute. But while we got a minute, I don't hear you, Jack.
Mac, do you want me to make a call right now?
Definitely.
I'm going to mute it on the air because I don't want to get.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to mute the call. I am muting it.
And while Jax is muted, I'm going to show some of the highlights of the fight between Joe Smith and his last opponent as he wins the light heavyweight crown, the title, with his sanctioned body. So let's bring that up and let the folks take a quick look at it and see what we do here. Let's see how Joe Smith took it to last week.
Outstanding world title fight. The cut from the right hand of Vlasov had momentum to Vlasov early. Then Smith Jr. comes roaring back in the middle rounds. And then all of a sudden, rounds 8 and 9. And Vlasov looked great. And you guys said, I don't like the body language of Smith Jr., but he made a decision like all great fighters do. And that decision was to come on strong in the championship rounds, and he did. For your winner by majority decision and new WBO light heavyweight champion of the world, the Beast from the East, Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. is the WBO champion.
Joe, it couldn't be any other way than this. It had to be hard fought. It had to go down to the wire. But in the end, you heard the words that you dreamed of. And new champion. Describe the feeling.
I mean, it's great. It's a great feeling. You know, it was definitely a close, tough fight. You know, I gave it to Vlasov. He was a great fighter. You know, he really put on a great show tonight and toughed it out. You know, I believe in that. You know, that round where I hurt him there. You know, I believe he stuck his head down, and I should have got the knockdown on that. But you know, I think I would have got the stoppage that round. But you know, he pulled it off and made it out on his feet, and you know, I believe I got the victory tonight because you know, they seen I landed the bigger, harder shots. But you know, he landed a lot of punches. It was a great fight.
You landed a career high 174 power punches, but in the last 2 rounds, you had to dig deep. You landed 68 in those last 2 rounds. What inspired you? What were you thinking? What got you through this fight?
I mean, I just told myself in the locker room and for the last month that I know I'm going to get hit because he's a very busy fighter, throws a lot of punches, but just tough it out, and eventually, you know, I'll get him. And I caught him in that last round, but I thought I was going to get out of there and get him out, but, you know, they said it was behind the head, and, you know, that was a little disappointing because the fight was a little too close for me. You know, I would have liked to win unanimously, but it was a victory is a victory.
You said this was the fight that was going to change your life. Having this belt does that. What do you want next?
I mean, I want other belts. I want the big fights out there, you know. I know I got to get back in the gym and keep working on my technique and stuff, but I believe I'm going to start unifying belts.
You missed out on a honeymoon because this fight was postponed due to COVID-19. Kelly, what was she telling you about coming home with this belt, and where's the honeymoon going to be?
You know, she's very excited. She wanted me to come home with the belt and put my ring back on because it's been off for a few days. But so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna go on our honeymoon and have a great time.
Well deserved with the.
So, folks, that was the fight that made Joe Smith a champion. And Jack, you got any news for us?
I called his promoter, Joe DeGuardia. I muted it because I'm not pulling a thing like Sterling Sharp, with Julio Jones in the show, putting him on the air, talking. So I muted it. I said, look, we're on the air now. I said to Joe DeGuardia, you have to get in touch with Joe Smith. He wanted to know, Mac, did you make the arrangements through Joe Smith's guy? Were you big? That's what he wanted to know. And I said, I'm sure Mac is good at that.
Well,
Mac did make the arrangements.
Guess what, Jack? We have the light heavyweight champion himself, Joe Smith, ready to come on so we can interview him for the second time. Once was before the fight. Now he is a belt holder, and we're going to get him on right now as we just got done looking at his great victory over Vlasov. So let's bring on the light heavyweight champion himself, Joe Smith Jr. And let's see, why isn't he coming in? He's in black right now. Joe, do you got your camera on, my friend? There we go. Well, he went off.
It's like he's in the ring. You see him one moment, then you can't hit him. Joe, you've got to be good to this show, especially. I like you, Joe, but Mac loves you. You're his favorite fighter. He talks to you on and on and on. He's friends with John Scully, Arthur Better Beef's assistant trainer, who's usually a regular on this show. And he lets Scully know that you're going to beat Better Beef. I mean, he compared you, Mac, to Marciano, LaMotta, and all those guys. To be extra good to Mac, to me, you could be so-so, but to Mac, you got to be extra good, Joe.
All right, sounds good.
Yes. So Joe, when we had,
guys, thanks for having me.
Oh man, we're happy to have you, Joe. Trust me. Joe, we had you on before we interviewed you, and it was a postponement of the fight, and you were kind of disappointed and frustrated. And then to see you win that fight, man, I mean, I love it. We just showed your video, courtesy of Top Rank, coming in the final rounds, holding on to the belt, and it was a great fight. But, I compare you to the Raging Bull, man. I think that you could take a punch and you could sure dish him out. And, I was really happy to see you win that.
Yeah, definitely. It was turned out to be a tough fight, with the training camp and everything was tough because it was, put on hold for a while. So I had to start all over, and then with the wedding and everything, but it all worked out for the best.
I know it sure did. And before Jack gets in here, because I know he, being a boxing writer, he's ready to get all over here. Tell me when you were going up against in that last, the championship fight there, I mean, you knew that he was a good technician boxing, right? And he had a little bit of pop in his gloves. So you said that you knew you were going to take some punches when you went up against him, and you had landed that big hit that probably should have got you out of the round. It should have probably been stopped there. It wasn't.
The 11th round, they didn't call it a knockdown. Vlasov said he was hit behind the head. I think what threw Joe off, Mac, in the fight. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. You knew how good your opponent was, but I don't think anyone realized how awkward he was. I think his awkwardness was giving you fits. I mean, he would zig, he would sag, he was all over the place. You rarely see a fighter that awkward. Was that a major problem, his awkwardness?
Yes, he was just very awkward. He threw punches from all different angles, and he's a very busy fighter, so just all those things combined made it a tough fight, Yeah,
I can imagine. So Joe, I think that boxing is a lot to do with styles, right? I mean, if you look back at the Frazier, Ali, Foreman, Norton era, there were a lot of different styles, and the matchups of the styles were what made that such a great era. I mean, you had Ali, who was a boxer. You had Frazier, who was a mauler. Foreman had power, and Norton was awkward. He was very unorthodox with a little power. And I kind of see this working out for the top four in the light heavyweight division. You know, you got Beterbiev, who's a technician with power. He's a very technical, sound fighter with some punch. You got Bivol, who's just a great boxer. You got, who you just fought, as you said, was kind of is awkward to fight him. And then you got you. Then you got you, who's kind of the mauler, man. I mean, you'll go punch for punch with anybody. So when you're in there fighting, I know eventually you're going to fight Beterbiev. You might fight Bivol. You might fight all these guys. So do you take that into consideration when you're training for another fighter? If you're going to go up against Beterbiev, which I think you will soon, are you going to fight him a little bit different than you would normally fight, or are you just going to go and mix it up with him?
I don't know. We have to see how it plays out when I'm in there, but everything changes once you're in there sometimes. I plan on just going after him though, and also using my boxing ability because I do have some. I can box, so I just do what I feel is necessary at the moment.
Now, Joe, against Vasilov, going into the late rounds, it looked at certain points like this fight was slipping away from you, and it seems like you willed your way to victory. It's like you just refused to lose. Like if you were going to have to win any one fight in your life, this was it. I mean, because a loss
that was it.
Would have been devastating, to lose another title bout and then have to get back online again and just work yourself back into another title shot. And all the people that came to see you, you didn't want to disappoint them. That played a big part in it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I truly believed in my, that if I lost that fight, my career was going to be over. So after, I believe it was around 7 or 8, one of those rounds, I got my ass kicked pretty good, and I was like, man, you need to wake up. You can't let this fight slip away. And then, I came on, I started picking it up from that point on, and I believe I stole the fight back in those definitely the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, Joe, we've been talking. Go ahead, Mac.
So we have the Iceman John Scully, a great fighter in his own right, trainer. Like Jack said, he's one of the trainers for Beterbiev. And I asked him to fight Beterbiev, what would he do? He was a light heavyweight contender, and he said it was all about the angles. And when I watch you fight, you do a lot of angles too. I mean, you're not letting the fighter a lot of times get set to throw that big punch when you're working in on him. You're coming in, and I love your overhand right. I'm telling you the truth, dude. I love that overhand right when they throw that, when they come in and you just come over the top and tag them. It's a great counterpunch. So Beterbiev he's a powerful guy too. You got power. Is it going to be a lot about the angles, Joe, and you not letting him set up, and the pressure of those angles?
Yeah, definitely. I believe so. You don't want to just stand right in front of him, so I'm going to move around a bit. But I also believe you got to match his power with power. So, and I believe I can do that.
No, Joe, you're not going to go along with this, but complacency sometimes sets in when someone achieves a lifelong dream. And you achieved your lifelong dream, becoming a world champion, and no one can ever take that away from you. Even if you don't win another fight, you made it. You made it. So is boxing more of a business now, or is the element of sports still there? Because before you won the world title, winning the world championship, I'm sure, was just about as important as any money you can make. Now, is it more of a business? Is it still for the glory, or what?
For me, I still want to try to unify all the belts, but it is, I am happy that I won the belt. It does make me, it actually takes some of the pressure off of me. So I feel by having that pressure lifted off of me, it's just going to make me a better fighter because I'm still hungry. I still want to get in there and put on a great show and look good. But at the same time, I don't have all that pressure on me to become a world champion because I've done it.
So Joe, Buck Flair asked a question about rematches. Now with Bivol, who is also a belt holder, and a lot of people are talking Beterbiev and Bivol. How come there was never a rematch of you and Bivol, or was that in the works at one time?
It wasn't. I could answer that, Joe. It wasn't at the point. Joe lost the decision. He hurt Bivol at one point, but there wasn't a demand for it right after. Now that Joe has won a world title, there might be a demand for it at some point. It's supply and demand. Right now, the demand would be for Joe and Beterbiev. That's the fight that people want to see. But right after losing to Bivol, and Joe legitimately did lose the fight in all fairness. I mean, Bivol did deserve the decision, but Joe hurt him at one point and had him in trouble. Unfortunately, it happened, I believe, late in the round, and then the bell rang, and that's the luck of the sport. But I don't think it's anything,
I believe in that fight. I learned a lot, though. I learned a lot, and I have improved a lot since that fight. And I believe, that loss made me a much better fighter. And next time around, I think it'll be a different fight, a lot different.
Bernard Hopkins still says you pushed him out of the ring, Joe. What's the story there? He said you shoved him out of the ring. He swears by it.
No, he came up to me already after one of the fights and congratulated me on that win. And he was like, he made a little joke about it. He's like, "Come here, let me talk to you about that push." And then he just laughed and tapped me on the shoulder.
That's a lot of hype, right, Joe? There's a lot of hype in boxing. I mean, everybody's talking, and you don't do a lot of talking. I mean, as far as trying to instigate stuff, you're pretty calm when it comes to that stuff. That's another reason why I like you. You're not talking the talk, you're walking the walk. I love that about you.
Hey, as long as people show me respect, I got respect for everybody who steps in that ring, So I just want to get in there and, show what I can do with my hands.
Joe, we've talked in past shows about whether it's okay for boxers to retire during a fight. I hate to use the word quit, but decide not to go on if they've suffered an injury. I'm all for fighters not continuing if they suffered any type of serious injury. You, my man, early in your career, you had a broken jaw. I think twice, if I'm not mistaken. Early on at the Aviator, right?
At the Aviator, yep, and
right,
and the Barrera fight.
And the Barrera, so it happened twice. Right. I feel if a fighter suffers a broken jaw, doesn't go on, that's a smart thing. Live to fight another day. Yeah. That's my philosophy. Yeah. What about yours?
Yeah, definitely. In my first fight, I was, I still had a long career ahead of me. So in that fight, I walked away because that fight meant nothing at the time. So, but when I was fighting Barrera, I had a lot on the line, and I knew, truly, I believed that was going to be my last fight. I was like, this is going to be my last fight. Let me just make it through it and at least survive the fight. And, I pulled it off and made it through the fight, but I couldn't land that big shot again and get him out of there. I was just in so much pain. So in that situation, I believe, if a fighter's really hurt that bad, it's up to you, leave it to you. But but some of these guys, they walk out with little injuries.
So I knew that would be his attitude, Jack. I love him. Joe, like we were talking about the guy who had his cheekbone broke and the optic nerve messed up, and people were calling him a quitter. And I understand that, we expect our fighters to go out there and die in the ring, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, we're pumped up. But some injury like that and saying, listen, I can't do it anymore, I agree with that. You don't want to go blind.
Yeah. If it was really broken like that, I agree. Because, he could have went blind if that bone ruptured, hit something. You don't know.
Yeah, so to me, the boxing fans or the writers saying something like he's a quitter to me is totally ridiculous. It's stupid. So
you can't see every injury, and you don't know what that person's really going through while he's in there. For example, like me, no one even knew I had a broken jaw really until they seen the X-rays for proof. A lot of people were telling me, "Oh, it's not broken. It's not broken." I'm like, "Yeah, it is. I'm telling you." Sure, it was broken on both sides. It was barely hanging on.
Joe, what's holding up the Beterbiev fight? Is it because I know you promoted Joe DeGuardia once at that Madison Square Garden? That would be the perfect place for it to be fought.
Yeah.
You know, he has a Russian population here. You have your New York people, and it's a great fan-friendly fight. Is it just a question of waiting for the city to open up the venues like for boxing, allowing unlimited people to attend? I mean, what's holding it up right now?
Yeah, I believe it's that. We got to make the right amount of money for that fight and just do it at the right time. You know, I'm ready for it. I wanted that fight to be my next fight, but from what I'm told, I don't know if it's going to happen. So, but if it don't happen this year, it's going to be first quarter of next year probably. So.
Are you hinting Beterbiev is his people, not Beterbiev himself, a little hesitant to make the fight with you? They're a little worried. I'm instigating now, Joe.
I don't know, maybe. I already they've seen what I've done to the top fighters in my last few fights, so see what happens.
Well, for the people who don't know, last year the Boxing Writers Association of America has a fight of the year, but we have a ballot of 5 finalists, and Joe was one of the 5 finalists for fight of the year. I mean, he didn't win it, but just to be on the ballot, one of the 5, was absolutely great. It was a great achievement.
Yeah, definitely. Last year was definitely a good year for me. I fought 2 guys that were top. You know,
I got to ask Joe this about some of the politics in boxing. Now, Joe clearly beat Jesse Hart when he fought him in Atlantic City. It wasn't close. Jesse Hart showed a lot of heart, a lot of gameness. He hung in. And I know the one judge that scored it against Joe. He is a good guy, good person. But I don't want to mention his name. What on earth was he watching in that fight? Even Bob Arum, who promoted Jesse Hart, said this is unacceptable for my guy to get the decision. I mean, it's scary because if one other judge scored for Jesse Hart, did something crazy like that, Joe isn't a champion today. He doesn't get his shot, you know?
Yeah, I would have lost everything. You know, stuff like that does hurt fighters.
What was your reaction when you heard one judge actually scored against you?
Oh man, I thought they were trying to steal it from me, man. I was upset about that because, you know, I should have been, even on like the boxing rankings and stuff, you know, it should say unanimous decision, but it doesn't. It says split decision. So now every time I move up in the ranking or do anything good, Jesse Hart's right there with me.
Yeah.
I just
bigger thrill, Joe.
Time.
What's a bigger thrill? This might seem like an odd question. Winning the world title against Vaslov or winning the Golden Gloves as an amateur? Because so many guys who became world champions as professionals tell me those amateur titles actually were a greater thrill. You know, coming up.
Not to me, man. Winning the world championship is everything, man. That's all I ever wanted, and you know, I achieved that. So it's a great feeling. But I gotta say, winning the Golden Gloves and everything, it was all great. It was a wonderful time, and I had a good time doing it all. But winning the world championship was definitely the best moment of my life, probably one of them.
Well, there's 2 more guys to get, Joe. There's 2 more guys that you got to put out of commission, and you know,
I get the chance to do it. You know,
you will. There's no doubt. People want to see this. If Beterbiev and you can't be made, and Bivol comes to you, or the Bivol camp comes to you and says, "Hey, listen, let's do the rematch. Let's do the belt." Just as excited to fight that fight.
But Mac, it's not the money in the Bivol fight that they would do.
I'm just saying to get that belt. I'm just saying in the meantime and in between time, would that be something that you'd be interested in?
Hey, I'm interested in all the belts, but I believe the Beterbiev fight's going to happen at some point. Then we'll get Bivol again.
There you go.
Joe, I hope this doesn't sound that crazy, but can you put on weight and actually fight at heavyweight? If you have one of the heavyweight champions who's weak-chinned, isn't massively big, let's say, can you get up to 210 and fight an Anthony Joshua, let's say the opportunity was there and the money was right? Because once you put on the weight, you can never go back down again, you know?
Yeah, I could do it easily. I would love to, but, you know, like I said, I want to unify these belts, and I would like to. Hey, if I won a belt earlier in my career, I would have been a heavyweight by now. But I'm still killing myself to make the 175. This way, I could make that dream come true.
Excellent. So Joe, as Jack said, I've become a big fan of yours. I really think that you've got a great couple of years coming ahead of you. I hope you get this undisputed championship, and maybe if you do that, maybe you do go to heavyweight and knock Joshua out. Who knows? But I mean, it's unbelievable to see a guy like you. And what makes me such a fan of yours, Joe, is that you're like the ordinary guy out there. You're not all show. I mean, you go out there, you do a job like everybody else, and you do it really well. And I'm telling you,
I'm just quiet. I've always been, and I'm just just a humble guy. I don't go out bragging about my titles and everything I accomplished. But when people ask me, it is good to be able to say it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Joe. I mean, I'm sure you're humble to a large degree, but I remember I mentioned this before, the past show, the Boxing Writers Association of America banquet. I had Sergey Kovalev's manager sitting at my table. My eyes just wandered over to your table, and you were glaring at Kovalev. You didn't seem that humble that moment. You look like you wanted a little action that night.
I was instigating him that night a little bit because he was.
Oh, I didn't know what.
He was on Instagram Live, so I was sending him eye emojis that I was watching him.
Speaking of that, Kovalev has a name. If the Better Be fight falls through, is Kovalev a viable opponent? Because he could be plugged into that slot. I mean, he gave Canelo Alvarez a decent fight, former champion. A lot of people feel he beat Andre Ward in the first fight, and he is a name. I mean, would there be a lack of motivation if the Better Be fight falls through and Sergey Kovalev, who's not as big a name now as he was, at the time I mentioned, is that viable?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I believe he's kind of done. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, a lot of different fighters, and I just want to get out there, make some money, and some more belts.
Yes, I agree with you. And don't be surprised if Canelo decides to drop into your division like a sniper and try to.
Waiting for it. I got his belt. He could come and try to take it from me, but I think he'll have a harder time.
Yes. So, Joe, I want to thank you for spending some time with us, coming in. We'll be following you. We'll be watching what's going on in the light heavyweight division, because I think it's becoming one of the most exciting divisions right now out there with the contenders. And it's always great to see, underdog like yourself. I don't know if you even consider yourself an underdog, but a person that comes up and challenging these different fighters with these different reputations and putting it to them. I love it, man. I love your style. I love your heart. I love your determination. I really do.
I appreciate it, man. It's just motivation to get back in there and put on another good show for you guys.
That's excellent. So, Jack, anything else?
No, all the best. Joe basically answered. And again, Joe, Mac is your biggest support in the media. You wouldn't believe how he talks glowingly about you all the time, nonstop. We're a sports show. We're talking football, and he finds a way to slip your name in there.
Keep doing it, man. I appreciate it.
Jack does exaggerate a little bit, to let you know, Joe, but I am a big fan.
I've watched old shows, Joe.
Okay, again, Joe, I'll let you get back to your business. I want to thank you for stopping in, and we'll be in touch as you keep going, my friend, and we'll be following up. Trust me.
All right, thank you, guys. Hopefully I'm back in there soon.
We hope so, too. Take care, Joe.
Have a good one.
So there you go. As I promised, and you made sure of, and we got Joe in. And to me, again, Jack, there's certain fighters that I latch on to. Joe Frazier was one of them. Another down-to-earth kind of fighter, Vito Interfermo. I latched on to him. I love Vito Interfermo. And now my newest one is Joe Smith. I mean, great fighter, a lot of heart, shows me something. I just love watching them fight.
Certain fighters we just latch on to. We don't even know why a lot of the time. I mean, there's just something about him that we, really, really like a lot that makes them amongst our favorite fighters. So I understand how you feel about Joe Smith. And Joe Smith, he really did, he's from Long Island. The Islanders are doing Long Island proud now, but before them, Joe Smith did Long Island pretty proud, winning his world title.
I agree, Jack, and I can't wait to see him matched up against one of the contenders, whoever it is. If it's better be, great. If it's not, then one of them. So I can't wait to see him fight again. Folks, we're going to be out of here for a quick break. We got to regroup as we can bring you more sports, maybe more than you can handle. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll see you in a couple minutes, folks. Be right back.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
Yeah, we're back, folks. We're back with the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, bringing you all the sports nationwide and locally. It was great having the light heavyweight champion, Joe Smith, on, Carter B on, Jack. I mean, great guests. You kind of hooked us up with Star Promotions to make sure we got Joe on, and he's got other fighters, too, that we'll be interviewing. He's supposed to be back up and running in September back at his home office. So we'll be talking to him about some of his other fighters.
Yeah, Joe DeGuardia of Start,
Yes.
the promoter Start
Yes.
Boxing, right?
Yes.
They run predominantly at the Paramount Theater out in Huntington, Long Island. A lot of great venue, great shows over there.
Yeah. So we'll be in touch with him. He told me to contact him for a couple other fighters. One's being scheduled for a big event, so we'll probably get him on soon. So let's get back to the sports in the playoffs, Jack. We'll touch on the NBA right now. The Phoenix Suns, who is my pick to win the championship or go there for the West at least. They had all 5 players in double digits. The bench and the scoring was over 40 points for Denver. Nocic, he did his thing, 24 points, 13 rebounds. Their bench also played good. But to me, Jack, and maybe I'm wrong, I think that the Phoenix Suns are truly the team. Jazz is close, but the Phoenix Suns plays team basketball like no other team in either division.
Well, led by Devin Booker and Chris Paul. I mean, the Suns don't have the hardest matchup for this point of the playoffs, playing the Denver Nuggets, whose coach, Michael Malone, said his team quit yesterday. That's a bad thing, that his team just didn't try hard enough. And he said just because we're going home, where, now they're going back to Denver after losing the first 2 to Phoenix very badly, that you shouldn't think because you're going home, things are going to get better. And he just didn't see the effort there in his players. And when Jamal Murray went out with the injury, we knew Denver, it kind of slipped a little under the radar as a serious, threat to win the NBA championship. What's good for Phoenix, too, is the Utah Jazz and the LA Clippers. They're going to beat one another up this series. Utah won a close one, game 1, but this isn't a 4 or 5 game series. This is, at least a 6-game series, an excellent chance at a 7-game series where Utah and the Clippers lay it all on the line. And if Phoenix gets to cruise into the Western Conference Finals and Utah and the Clippers have this emotionally draining series, it increases Phoenix chances a lot of going to the finals.
At least in the first couple games, Jack, until they catch up, right? I mean, they'll come in fresh and maybe a little bit more, ready to play the first 2 games rather than a team that gets beat up.
No, there's a lot of it's mental. I'm not talking about the physical thing coming in fresher. I'm thinking in terms of the Phoenix Suns on cruise control right now. They know they're going to the next round. They're not going to lose 4 out of the next 5. And I seriously doubt Denver's going to win the next 2 at Denver and start to extend them. If they go in pretty easily like the Nets might be doing with Milwaukee, that doesn't bode well for the Philadelphia 76ers if they have a 7-game series with the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, so much of it is mental, as well, not to get mentally drained, by the next series.
Yeah, that's what I meant by fresh, Jack. I meant, you're calm, you're ready to go, and then the other team has just got out of a dogfight. And you brought up the Nets, and listen, they can put it away. I mean, they're up 3-0 right now, and they're playing today. And Milwaukee, they look lost. They really do. I mean, I thought Milwaukee would have a better defensive effort against that, but they don't have an answer for Durant. And Durant seems to be really starting to come back to form before he got hurt, Jack, where he's actually, one of the best players in the league, top 3. And if they don't slow down Durant, I mean, give Kyrie his 45. If they don't slow down Durant, it's over today.
I'm going to tell you, the Milwaukee Bucks are not only playing for this year, they're playing for their future in this series. And what I mean by that is if they lose to the Nets in 6 or 7 games, it's a tough, hard-fought series with close games. Okay, they come back next year. They try to tweak their team. There's something to look forward to. But if they get blown out these next 2 games, they get swept in 4 games by the Nets, they're so far away from overtaking the Nets. How can they be enthusiastic going into next season, knowing, they have no realistic chance of going to the finals? So a lot's on the line still for the Bucks in this series, even if they're to lose it.
Yeah, I agree, Jack. And, it's not going to be a cakewalk for the 76ers. I think Embiid will be the answer to beating the Hawks. But I'm telling you, the Hawks have an outside chance. I mean, if they get hot, they find an answer for Embiid, they have a chance. The only problem with the Hawks is Simmons. Defensively against Trae Young is a big advantage that defensively that the 76ers have right now.
Yeah, Ben Simmons came up runner-up in the voting to Rudy Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year. So you tried to put Simmons on Trae Young, try to neutralize him to a degree, and Atlanta's going to go as far as Trae Young takes him.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think that's going to be that might go 6-7 games depending on the adjustments they make. So in Major League Baseball, Jack, the Mets return the favor, beating the Orioles 14-1 after the Orioles beat them 10-1. McKinney, playing right field, had 5 RBIs, Jack. So I don't know where he's been, but he really turned it on yesterday. I think the Mets can win that division, Jack, especially the way the Braves are playing right now. I mean, I think they could legitimately win the NL East.
Yeah, they can. It's not the strongest division by any means.
That's the truth. And Jack has disappeared again on me. Folks, this happens quite a bit, where Jack just all of a sudden just leaves. I don't know what's going on over there. Technically, Jack is not the greatest, so I've got to be ready for this at any time. I guess he's mad that the Mets are going to win the National League East. I don't know. But so the Braves, the Phillies come in, they grab one from the Braves 2-1. Luke Williams, and I believe that's the player, folks, that they just brought up. He drives into 2 runs. Zach Eflin goes 6 innings, gives up 8 hits, and has 7 strikeouts. And this is what the Phillies need. The Phillies have an offense. We all know that. But their pitching is what's kept them back the last couple of years, especially the bullpen. So if the Phillies can find an answer to their pitching, if they can find an answer to their bullpen before the year is out, say halfway through, they have a real good chance of making a run at that NL East title again, with the Mets. The Braves, I just don't know what's going on with them this year. I mean, they were the favorites. Everybody thought they had the pitching and the offense to win that division. But right now, and folks, we're almost, we're 60 games in. We're 20 games away from the halfway point. So if by chance the Braves don't get it together, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do there with Atlanta. They're going to have to shake it up a little bit. Them saying that they were going to be the favorites this year, and after the bubble year, and I'm going to say it. A lot of people last year said it doesn't matter. The teams are all the same. They all played in the bubble. The best teams. That's not true, folks. We know it's not true. They said there shouldn't be an asterisk. Well, there's a reason why some teams, ended up winning the division and all the different playoff scenarios, and why some of them got it and some didn't. I think Florida got in, for God's sakes, last year. When you play 162 games, we find out what organizations are better. That's just the way it is, right? I mean, if you have a good minor league system, if you can make the trades, if you have the star power, the team chemistry to go 162 games and win the division is a lot different than 60, 80 games, folks. We know that, right? There are some teams that have come back from 14, 15 games in July and have won the thing because their team is that good, their organization is that good. So I don't want to hear that, from the bubble last year, that it was the way it's supposed to be. Of course it wasn't. Voit is nowhere close to being a home run leader. I mean, for the Yankees, that was a home run leader during that year. He was hot and probably would have fell off come the 162 games. He wouldn't have been the home run leader. I guarantee you that. So I don't want to hear this nonsense that playing in the bubble, the best teams won. That's not true. And, you just look at the Dodgers right now. They might be in trouble. I mean, here comes the San Francisco Giants out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, the San Francisco Giants come, and they've got the best record in baseball. They're ahead of the Padres. They're ahead of the Dodgers, and they just keep winning. And so, I don't want to hear the bubble nonsense anymore about that was legit. It wasn't legit, and we all know that. So, anyway, we're gonna get to the Bogarts hit 2 RBIs. Got the 2 RBIs anyway the Red Sox as they lost. The Red Sox are playing a little over 500 ball. They're holding off. They're holding in position behind the Rays. Surprise season for the Red Sox. I think it still matters if you have a good manager, right? I mean, we all talk about analytics and the GMs are running the team. They're filling out the cards, they're doing a lineup. You got to tell the manager, sit this guy. This guy shouldn't be playing this position. We can't have Stanton play in the outfield. He might get hurt. Judge, keep an eye on him, rest him. Come on, man. I mean, listen, the Red Sox are there right now. Love or like or dislike or hate Cora. I mean, he's doing a bang-up job with that young team. And, they got an ace coming back. They can pick up another pitcher, and all of a sudden the Red Sox, you're looking at maybe two aces and a good pitching staff, a good offense, a good fielding team. They might go to the World Series. Anything can happen, folks, in this long season. All you got to do as a team is stay near the top and wait to see what happens, because there are going to be players available. There are going to be pitchers available out there, and if you stay near the top, they're going to want to come play for you. So anything can happen. And that's another big difference between a bubble shortened season and a long season. So the Red Sox still hanging in there. We have the Twins playing the Yankees, and this is the biggest helping hand the Yankees have got, going up against the Minnesota Twins, who, are division winners and have lost all their playoff games for some reason. And here's another thing from the bubble, right? Another example. The Twins are, I think, in last place. They're pretty close to last place right now. The Yankees put up a lot of runs. Stanton did his thing. He's healthy. It's 2 home runs. Judge hits a home run. They end up winning 9-6, folks. But in the 9th inning, I just got a message from Jack, so he told me why he dropped out. Well, anyway, the Twins were able to score 4 runs in the 9th to make it interesting. So that, heralded Yankees bullpen almost lost the game for them. So when you look at the Yankees right now, I think they're in trouble. I mean, they're beating the Twins. That is not a big deal this year. With the Rays and Red Sox in first, the Yankees are going to have to make some moves one way or another to strengthen their team, because right now, the way they're structured and the way they're resting, certain players and not letting them play the field, and, moving Frazier to right and letting Judge sit and resting Stanton at DH. I mean, they've got to do something. They've got to do something to either bolster the pitching staff or get some position players in the upcoming thing. We'll see what Cashman does, and we'll see what the Yankees do to try to stay in this race, because I'm afraid that if they don't, you might see the Blue Jays pass them also. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees. So let's talk a little bit about, the NFL season coming up. As I mentioned, it ain't going to happen. Aaron Rodgers, not reporting to camp, right? He's not going to go to camp. He's going to get fined for not going into camp. And it's really amazing to me that players, and not just Aaron Rodgers, who come to a point in their career. I mean, it happened to Brett Favre too. Tom Brady pushed on under different circumstances. He went to Tampa. Brett Favre goes to Minnesota. He almost takes him to the Super Bowl there. I really believe it's not so much, not the organization itself, right? They want to turn a chapter. They feel they've done everything they can for that organization. I think, Aaron Rodgers was sitting behind Brett Favre. Brett Favre says, it's been a great run with Green Bay. I've been there long enough. Maybe I'll try another team. And, of course, he goes to the Vikings and then to the Jets, where the Jets were winning before he got hurt. They had a winning record. That's how good a quarterback Brett Favre was. Tom Brady, his contract ran out. He saw the writing on the wall with the Patriots, even though they did retool this year. The year he left, he knew they were going to be a bad team. And, playing 20 years for a team, like a job that you have, you say, can I do something else? Can I go somewhere else and be successful? And I think some people are just built that way, folks, where they want to push on to a different job or different career and see if they can do it. Tom Brady did a great job last year with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had a very good team before he got there, I think. If Winston wasn't throwing as many interceptions as he did, I think Tampa went to the playoffs the year before. But beside the point, Brady goes there, brings his work ethic. The Tampa players get excited. A couple of people sign on, and there's Tampa Bay. And maybe that's where Brett Favre is at. Maybe that's where Aaron Rodgers is at right now. I'm trying to figure out why a guy who says he loves the fans, he loves the players, he loves the coaches, he loves even the backup quarterback Jordan Love underneath him. He loves working with the kid. Maybe it's just he wants to try something new. Maybe he wants to prove, like maybe Tom Brady did, that he can go somewhere else and win too on a good team. But when you're under contract, folks, to me, that's the wrong way, right? I mean, you're under contract to play for a team. There's got to be some kind of integrity there. There's got to be some kind of in your heart and in your mind, what you're there for, what the contract is signed for. You're there for the fans. If you really do love the fans, you play out your contract and then you push on if that's what you want to do. I don't want to hear the nonsense with the GM. I don't want to hear that nonsense and relationships and people. That's what it's all about. It's all about pushing yourself as an athlete. It's all about having your team with you, your brothers, so-called brothers with you, that you play for these guys. And maybe it's just worn out. Maybe he's worn out. He should have just waited till the contract was up. I would have no problem with what he's doing. The way he's doing it, I think, is wrong. And it's said that NFL can trade you at any time, or that's not necessarily true, or cut you at any time. That's, yes, maybe to a point. But, there are no trade clause. There are, signing bonuses for these star players. And, you should honor these things, I think, anyway. I think you should honor your contract, that you should honor the players and the fans, as you say you love them. You should honor them by playing. When your contract, as I said, runs out, then go do your thing, man. Go get on another team that's competitive and try to do it. And it's not like Green Bay hasn't been competitive, right? Green Bay has been in a championship the last 2 years, and there are players that would give their right arm to go to the NFC Championship and have a shot at the Super Bowl. So this is my problem with what Brett Favre is doing. It's his life, go live it. I hope Green Bay Packers stay strong, and if he wants to retire, that's up to him, and then whatever happens there happens. But what a different scenario for the rest of the NFC, the NFC North, right? I mean, here you got Minnesota, who's had their problems going to win the big game. You've got Chicago it always seems like they're close. They're in a rebuild, a mini rebuild, where they're almost there. The kicker bounces the ball off the goalpost and they lose, that playoff game, or they got a great defense and the offense is in there. What does it say to them? I mean, they made some moves. They got a young quarterback. They got Andy Dalton there. I mean, this could be something really good for the Chicago Bears. And if the Packers don't play, people are picking the Vikings. I think the Bears got a good shot at winning that division. So, it's going to be interesting in the NFC Central with what happens with Brett Favre, whether he stays, comes back in quarterback, or he doesn't. And I think Chicago would be on a path to maybe winning that division. And it's just weird how different things affect, the outlook of the teams that are in different divisions. The West is going to be really exciting, folks, with, the teams over there. San Francisco, we don't know what they're going to do with their, Garoppolo or their young quarterback. Seattle, there's been rumblings from Russell Wilson that he wanted more say. The Cardinals, exciting young team, exciting young quarterback. If he can stay healthy and not try to run for touchdowns all the time, the Cardinals are in it. And, of course, now the Rams with, Matt Stafford, who legitimately, statistically, was one of the best quarterbacks in the last maybe 5-6 years when he wasn't injured. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that NFC West this year. I mean, they're going to be dogfighting out there. And, when it's all said and done, can anybody beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I mean, I think that's going to be one of the biggest questions this year, because I don't see anybody in their division challenge them. I don't see anybody in the NFC East challenging them. And I sure don't see anybody in the NFC North challenging them. The only challenge they might have would be from the NFC West, depending on who represents them. So a lot of interesting things are coming up in the NFL. We do our This Week in Sports, where we cover a little bit of NFL. We'll be talking about the Giants, their potential for this year. We'll be reviewing them this Sunday. Tomorrow, a big show also, folks. Tune in as we got, Keith Angle, Byron Williams, and one of the lead chief medical advisor ringside physicians will be in with us. So join us tomorrow. I want to thank you for joining us as you do every day, all our fans. And, let the word out, folks, because we're going to be bringing you sports and big guests like this all the time. You have a great Thursday, and we'll see you tomorrow, 8 to 10 a.m. on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Have a great day, folks.